Hello everybody, GGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Dr. Stone New World, or Dr. Stone Season 3, so yeah, without further ado, let's just hop right into this. So, what is the story summary of Dr. Stone New World? The basic premise of it is we take place right after Dr. Stone Ryusui, where Ryusui ends up asking Senku to bring back his butler, and they try to continue building the ship before setting out on the sea to go take on all kinds of new threats as they try to find the secrets of the petrification beam that petrified the whole world. And yeah, that's the basic whole start of it. That's not a great story summary, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, in terms of spoiler-free thoughts, I really enjoyed this. Like, I was ready to hop into Dr. Stone, and while the first episode had me a bit iffy, like, I wasn't super into it. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't, like, super into it. As the season went on, I slowly found myself getting more and more invested, and after a few things occur, which I'll get into in the spoiler section, it was great. It was honestly so good. I think this is just such great Dr. Stone content. I don't know what's with the newer seasons of TV shows I've been watching, but for some reason, every single time I've tried to return to a show after a long time, they just end up slapping, and I don't know why. Just Dr. Stone Season 3, this is Part 1. Dr. Stone Season 3 Part 1, because they're making a second part, I think is airing in October. This was awesome. It did end on a kind of weird note in my opinion, but I still really enjoyed this anime. Like, I thoroughly found so many moments of this entertaining. I got constant laughs. There were times I really felt a lot of emotion for the characters. And there's even this one part with this, like, big plot twist that the first time I saw it, I was just like, what? And by first time, I mean that this time, but I've watched some other people react to it since then, and they have very similar reactions. Just, it's one of those moments where you're just like, what? And I'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but it was just such a shocking moment. And overall, I really enjoyed it. There were so many moments in this that had some really fun jokes. There were so many different ideas that were thrown together. And the fact that this is just like the start of this story and what could happen in this series, like from here on out, I want more of this because this season was freaking awesome. We kind of returned back to, without spoiling what happens, we returned back to what I really liked about Dr. Stone in the first season, which is taking their time a bit more, explaining the science behind things and kind of building up the story. I actually appreciated that in the season 1 compared to season 2, where they kind of rushed through most of the science and focused on bits and pieces of it instead, and mainly just tried to focus more on the plot overall. But we returned kind of like back to season 1 with season 3 as we go back to explaining all the different sciences behind everything, slowly building everything up. And I really appreciated that, and I really liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it just got me super into Dr. Stone Season 3. And yeah, that's all I can really say without spoiling anything, so we're just gonna hop into the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp if you want to skip past the spoilers, but I recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts if you have seen season 3 of Dr. Stone. But if you haven't, you can skip to the end because who wants spoilers if you haven't seen the show yet? But again, if you haven't seen it, I recommend sticking around since you might get to hear some opinions you can agree or disagree with in the comments below. But that's all I have to say about that, so we're gonna catch up for 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so right off the bat, one character I want to talk about, which I was very surprised at how much more attention he got in this season, is Ryusui. Now, we went over a bit about his character in the special Dr. Stone Ryusui, which I did like, but I didn't love, and so it didn't really give me much of a read on Ryusui's character, at least in my opinion. I felt like I didn't get at too much of his character. I did like what I saw, but I wouldn't say I was like overly interested in his character. And in fact, sometimes I thought this guy could get a bit annoying. However, this season really makes his character shine, at least in the first half before the big twist happens, where he just shows off his constant thought process and how he tries to think things through sometimes. And it just, like, he's such a fun character to have around, and he went from being a character I didn't really care much about to being probably one of my favorite characters in Dr. Stone, just because of his energy and attitude and everything. I really enjoyed him in this season, and it gave me a lot more to enjoy from his character than in the special about him, since, you know, episodes give you a lot more time to expand on a character than a 45-minute special. But yeah, I really liked how much more Ryusui developed, especially since we were introduced to his butler. I believe their name was Francois, and we get to meet them, and we just have all these really interesting interactions between these different mix of characters, especially with Francois and Ryusui really adding to everything. And I just really enjoyed Ryusui overall in this, as he gets a lot more of a character than in his own special because there's more than just 45 minutes to go off of. But yeah. So before we move with any other things I'd like to discuss, the first thing I want to discuss is the big twist of the season, and that is when they arrive on the main treasure island where they're supposed to find platinum in order to create more revival fluid, or like an infinite amount of revival fluid. And then they pull this big twist on us that it turns out there are people on the island who have the ability to petrify people. And everyone except Senku, Kohaku, Gen, Suika, and this other person, I can't remember their name right now. Other than them, everybody else gets petrified. Chrome, Ryusui, and everybody else. All of them get petrified. And when I saw that's what they were going with, I was just in shock. Like, I was genuinely shocked that that's what was happening right now. I did not think that was what we were gonna have on our first adventure outside of the main island and everything like that. Like, I remember seeing them build a ship, and I thought, okay, they're probably gonna spend most of this season building the ship, and they're gonna spend most of the season building up the ship and trying to prepare it, and maybe they'll throw in a storyline here to set up for the next part. But no, they fix up the ship about almost halfway through the season, and then they go off and find this island, and then all of them get petrified with the exception of some of our main crew. And I just sit there thinking, wow, I cannot believe they ended up doing this, and it was shocking. And I genuinely think it's probably one of the craziest twists inside of Dr. Stone, and the storyline that followed it was also very enjoyable. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. This whole season overall was just so enjoyable. Like, I didn't think Dr. Stone could get, like, crazy good. I thought it could be semi-good, like, super fun good, but nothing on the scale of, like, oh my goodness, this is the craziest thing I've seen good. This season just blew things out of the water for me, as there were so many moments that I was wondering, how are they going to do this? How are they going to solve that? And I had so much fun. Like, I genuinely had such a great time watching this anime. And just, Dr. Stone Season 3 really adds so much more to this world, since up to this point, we've always just had the who should we revive first type scenario. But now we're diving into more different matters as we're getting to explore things. And there's just so many moments in this that I genuinely had such a good laugh at and just thoroughly enjoyed. And that's why it upset me a bit with how it ended. Basically, how it ends is Senku and everyone managed to sneak into the enemy camp that's there, that's able to petrify people, get the platinum, and are starting to make the revival fluid. And I was really hoping we would maybe get the chance to see things get set up for the next arc. But that's not what happens. It ends as if it's just another normal episode. It just ends so that way, if you want to hop into the next episode when the second part starts to air, you can. But I do appreciate that, as it makes it easier for people who might not want to treat halfway through the season like it's the end for a while. It also felt a bit awkward, as it would have been nice to end on a little more of a dramatic note, preparing more for what's going to happen, because there were plenty of moments that made me wonder, oh, things are really starting to take a turn now. But then things just kind of stop at a generic episode point. It's still very good, don't get me wrong. It just felt a bit off to me, I guess you could say. Still, overall, thoroughly enjoyed this season, and I'm so excited to see what part 2 has in store, and I think they said it's coming out in October. I'm very excited to see where things go from there. But yeah. In terms of, like, specific characters I want to talk about besides Ryusui, who I already talked about, another character that I kind of want to talk about purely because I kind of actually felt bad for him, at least in the second half, would probably be Ginro, who, after managing to escape from being petrified like everyone else on the ship, along with Suika, who was kicked away by Ryusui to keep her from getting petrified. Ginro, at the start, I didn't really like a lot of his moments, especially since originally he was planning to only chase after the ship to get the attraction of the girls before, you know, they comedically got him onto the ship anyway. But as the season went on, I actually kind of felt bad for him as the story progressed. Like how after he managed to escape the petrification beam, they had to rely on him in order to get the lab, like the portable lab out, and he wasn't entirely ready for that, so he needed Suika's help. But that wasn't what really made me feel bad for him. What made me feel bad for him was after that, where a few of the characters have to dress up as these, like, charming, beautiful girls, and well, mainly the girls have to do it, but they have to be beautiful girls in order to get into the enemy camp. And they realize, we might have a better chance if more people are on board. So let's send Ginro out there, since he kind of has a lot of feminine features. And I just sit there thinking, come on, man. He's been through a few things already. You can kind of get some slack here, but no. He ends up joining on that, even though he himself doesn't really want it. And I think that's the only time I've actually fully felt bad for Ginro, but I don't know. He ends up helping a lot throughout the whole thing of the story, and I enjoyed seeing him a lot more throughout this than I did for previous seasons. And yeah, overall, I can thoroughly say this is probably growing to be one of my favorite seasons of Dr. Stone. And if the second half is as awesome as the first half was, I think I'm gonna really love this season of Dr. Stone. But yeah, that's all we have to say. So we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? I really enjoyed it. It's not perfect by any means, but I thoroughly enjoyed part 1 of Dr. Stone New World. It creates so many new ideas, and honestly shocks me sometimes with the kind of things that Senku and the others can create. And I just had such a fun time. And I don't know, there's just nothing else to say except it was good. I really enjoyed myself, and that's why I have to give Dr. Stone New World Season 3, aka Dr. Stone Season 3 Part 1, a solid 9 out of 10. Very enjoyable, and overall, just such a fun time. I'd recommend it for people who like Dr. Stone, since it's a great continuation to the overall story, and it's just so much fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to when Part 2 airs in October. So, yeah. That's all I have to say, so thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I also do anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!